Every year, thousands of people move to Spain dreaming of sunshine, tapas and a slower life. And honestly, a lot of that dream is real. But there are also a few things about living in Spain that can really catch people off guard. Things relocation videos don't often talk about. The good news is, once you understand how Spain works, most of these problems actually have a simple solution. In this video, we are sharing the challenges of moving to Spain that not many people tell you about and how to deal with them.
Spain is going through a huge housing crisis. Since COVID, the prices have risen 30 to 40% nationwide. And if you talk about stressed out areas like Madrid, Barcelona, Costa del Sol or Balearic Islands, it's more than doubled. And it now takes about 7 years of gross annual salary for a normal Spaniard to buy a basic home. And when we talk about stressed out areas, it takes more than 10 to 14 years as well. Now, what's causing this? One of the reasons is that until 2008, we had an oversupply of housing in Spain. There was construction boom everywhere. But then due to the financial crisis in 2008, they stopped building new houses. For a long period, there was not much activity in construction in Spain. And when after COVID, the demand picked up, it didn't catch up. Now they're building a lot of new housing, but it will take some time to go back.
When you think of the housing crisis, the first thing that comes to your mind is buying a property. But what about rental markets? It's equally as bad. First of all, if you're lucky to find a long-term rental, that's almost impossible. And then secondly, the prices, they keep going up every year, up and up. And it's due to one of the reasons as well that Angela mentioned before. There's a lot of demand, but limited supply. But then you have a lot of supply that is destined to just short-term rentals or holiday lets. And the Spanish government is putting a lot of measures to close many of them, but that's not enough. We need more properties to be built. Then if you're looking in the stressed areas like Costa del Sol, Madrid, Barcelona, Balearic Islands, if you're looking for a 2-bedroom apartment, you're looking at approximately 1,500 to 2,000 euros a month. And on top of that, you need to pay the deposit, you need to pay fees, you have to pay this, and you have to pay that. It becomes unaffordable. One of the solutions that Aslam and I, we are even considering, the closer you are to the coast, the more expensive it's going to be. The more inland you go, the cheaper it's going to be. So just about 20 to 30 minutes from the coast, you might be able to find cheaper accommodation.
Spain ranks very high on expat friendliness surveys, and social life here is one of the best in the world. You go to beaches, you go to tapas bars, you have amazing atmosphere even till late in the evening or until the early hours of the morning. You also have beautiful festivals throughout the year, but then sometimes, maybe because of your lifestyle, you might end up feeling lonely here. Like us, we work from home, and if you are a retiree or if you are a digital nomad as well, you might find that you don't have time to socialize, you don't have time to go to these beautiful bars and places. Even when you do go out socializing, our expectations are always too high that Spain is such a friendly country. We should be able to make friends instantly. A lot of times we do that, but many times it doesn't happen. We have been here over 3 years in Costa del Sol. We have struggled to make friends. We have said that before as well, and that is still the case. But I think that's down to us, that we have not been able to socialize as much. We have not been able to spend time with the groups, the clubs that we advise other people to join. So if you can, join the clubs. There are many groups available on Facebook as well for your local areas throughout Spain. That would help you. There are a number of expats living in Spain, and the tapestry of the culture that you find here is absolutely amazing. Over here, you can make friends from all over the world, but the effort needs to be done by you.
But to be 100% honest, it's not just us who encountered this issue. I'm Spanish, I'm from Cádiz, so I speak the language fluently. But also talking to a lot of our viewers, they reach out to us saying that they encountered the same issue when they first moved to Spain. Not just in Costa del Sol, they encountered the same in Valencia, in Balearic Islands, in Madrid, that they felt a bit isolated because they were not able to make friends. And let's be honest, it gets to an age that is a lot harder, and especially in the digital era that we live nowadays, we don't socialize face-to-face anymore, so you need to make that extra effort. So my recommendation would be that when you first move move to Spain, with a level of Spanish already, so you can open that door for the Spanish groups, because in Spain, we grew up together in schools, in plazas, in bars, so we already have a very close group of friends, so you need to break into that group. In the case of Aslam and I already have my friends here in Spain, in Cádiz, so I introduced Aslam to my friends in Spain. But when it comes to socializing, you also need to think of the cost of living, because let's be honest, the Spanish culture revolves around being outdoors, going for tapas, going in plazas, spend time with your friends and family in the lovely weather. But you would think Spain is cheap. It's not that cheap anymore. When we moved to Spain a few years ago, we came with the mentality that it was going to be a lot cheaper than the UK. And it's not really. We actually made a video comparing supermarkets in the UK versus Spain in our YouTube channel. You can find the link in the description below. And especially in supermarkets, that's the thing that shocked us the most, that compared to the salaries, which we're going to get in a point later on, when you compare the salaries in the UK and in Spain, and you go to supermarkets, there's not much difference in supermarkets prices, but there's a huge difference in wages. But it's not just supermarket and food, it's also in socializing, especially in areas that are very stressed, like we say Costa del Sol, Barcelona, Madrid. They keep pumping up the prices.
We know that prices have gone up everywhere in the world, even for places like Asia. But what I would recommend is that there are lots of things in Spain that you can do for free. For example, the beach earlier on we were. You don't need to spend any money there. Just grab a beer from the local Carrefour and sit down with your friends and have a good time. Apart from that, you also have so many activities that you can do in the summer, in the winter, for free. Paseo Marítimo is one of the favorite activities of Spaniards, that after dinner, they just walk around, have a good time with friends and family. It's just so beautiful. I love that. You don't need much to live in Spain, and that's the reality. That's the main takeaway, I would say, from living in Spain, is that you don't need much to live here.
We sign up to the loyalty programs in supermarkets, in petrol garages, and many people don't do that because they're like, oh, I'm just gonna save a few pennies. Yeah, but penny after penny, you're gonna save a lot of money. Also, Aslam and I, we tend to go to tapas places that are off the tourist places, because of course, if you go to the touristic destinations, they're gonna charge you more, and it's not gonna taste the same. You can go to smaller places, and sometimes they look really horrible from the outside, but when you actually go inside, try the food, it's delicious, typical Spanish, and very cheap. Another thing that Aslam and I do a lot, we buy the food in the supermarket and we cook it at home, and we do house parties, because that's one of the things as well that we do in Spain, that we get around, we play board games, we get some food, we actually cook our own food, other people bring their own food, they cook in their own home, bring it to our house, and we have a lovely afternoon together.
Now, cost of living can really depend on your location where you move to Spain. So when you move, you really have to think about everything. We have noticed that living in Costa del Sol, and when we compare that to Costa de la Luz, which is next coast, not far from here, the prices are very different. Not just housing I'm talking about, I'm also talking about socializing. Going to a restaurant, you pay a lot less, and the quality, I would say, is even better. One factor also to be considered is transportation cost. If you go choose a city like Cádiz, which is on a strip, and you don't really need a car over there, so you can completely rely on buses. And by the way, if you're local, the buses cost over there on a card 40 cents per journey. And if I were living in Cádiz, I won't need to forgo anywhere on a car, anywhere on a bus. I would be walking absolutely everywhere. In Spain, there's a real sense that public transport needs to be subsidized so that it can tackle the pollution, and also healthy lifestyle could be promoted. Even thinking about the big cities, Barcelona and Madrid, their underground prices are much cheaper when you compare to other cities like London, Paris. Now, Spain's economy has been booming over the years, and it has become envy of Europe. Unemployment rate has been coming down, but even then, it is still one of the highest unemployment rates in Europe. Job opportunities here are scarce, and mostly they are in tourism sector. On the coastal areas where most of the people live, that's where you have more job opportunities, but mainly in tourism sector. And it's quite limited. In Madrid and Barcelona, the fintech and the technology scene is booming a lot. But when it comes to job opportunities, the locals are preferred. You need to be speaking Spanish language. People who move here, they already have a secure job. Or if you're moving here as a digital nomad, that would be the best thing because you have earnings from different countries, probably higher income countries, and you're living in Spain where the cost of living is not as high. My advice would be do not rely on looking for jobs here. Do not rely even on your savings because they can go just like that. Try to find secure income online, or if you have a housing that you can let a house in back home, or something solid that you can rely on and live here.
And one of the things you might be thinking, I speak Spanish, I have a degree on X, Y, and Z, I have lots of experience, but don't rely just on that, because we have come across a couple of situations where their degree or the diploma that they obtain in their country of origin is not valid here in Spain. For example, we have a very good friend of ours who did teaching in the UK. They went to university, they had a master's degree, and then they came here to Spain thinking, well, I can do teaching in Spain. Actually, they wouldn't use their degree. They had to be translated, and then they had to do this, they had to do that. And then at the end of the day, they said, actually, this certificate is not valid in Spain. You had to do another master's degree. So many people, when they come here, they think, well, I'm extremely qualified. I have a lot of studies. Some of them, they might not be valid here in Spain, especially if it's outside the European Union. Make sure before you move to Spain that you have done your research. Make sure that your degree, your master's degree is valid here in Spain. And if not, they might need a translation, or you might need additional qualifications. Just do the homework before you move here. The last position you want to be in is you come in here expecting something and then it doesn't.
If you're lucky enough to find a job in Spain, the salaries are lower compared to Northern European countries. But if I were to be honest, they're not that bad. The minimum salary in Spain that you can find is about just under 1,400 euros a month. And if you're talking about average salary in the country is just under 2,400 euros a month. But then it really depends on where you are. The tech scene in Barcelona is booming and Madrid has a lot of industries, so they tend to have higher salaries. But if you are looking for tourism sector, which is mainly on the coast, that would have lower salaries.
But now let's break it down into the nitty-gritty. 30% of the population of Spain that is employed earns under 1,600 euros a month. Then another 40% of the population earns between 1,600 to 2,600 euros a month. And only 30% of the population earns over 2,600 euros a month. And that's something that also becomes to age, because the aging population, the higher age group it is, the more you will earn, of course. But in the youth market, there is a 20% unemployment, which is one of the highest ones in Europe. And also, when you look at the salaries and how fast the cost of things are going a lot faster than actually salaries are. Many people move here with a digital nomad visa. So if you're able to bring your salary that you made back home here to Spain, then you are laughing. But of course, it's not the beautiful world you're imagining, because then taxes come into play.
Spain is notoriously known for its taxes. There are over 30 types of taxes, and also there are different layers. You have national level tax, you have regional level tax, and then you have municipality level tax as well. It's very complicated, but we are going to focus on 3 points here. Firstly, the income tax. When it comes to income tax, one thing I really don't like is there is no personal allowance. So from the very first euro you earn, you are taxed on that. When we talk about tax brackets, the lower income you have 19% tax. On medium income, you will be charged between 24 to 30% tax. And when it comes to high income, you'll be charged at 47%. And the moment you become tax resident in Spain, you'll be charged not only on the income you earn in Spain, but all over the world. That includes your rental income, your investments, your salaries, and also your pension.
And the third point, Spain has a very strict financial reporting system, meaning that every now and then you need to inform the taxman of this, on that. The first one that comes to my mind, seeing that we are in the month of March, is Modelo 720. And this Modelo, you need to complete it if you are a tax resident in Spain and you have savings, you have properties, you have salaries from abroad. This is mainly informative, but if you don't do it, you get a heavy fine. And this is one of the many reports, or the many, we call them modelos. I mean, this is Modelo 720, so that's already telling you there are over 700 modelos that you had to complete. And it gets a bit overwhelming, I have to say. When I first moved back to Spain, I was like, my God, this is so overwhelming, so complex. That's why my recommendation is get a good gestor. A gestor will know exactly what you need to complete, the deadlines, they will make sure that we get the information, and then you might need the gestor for 1 or 2 years when you move here, but then on the 2nd or 3rd year, you must say, actually, I'm familiar about what I need to do, and I can do it myself, but please don't miss the deadlines, because if you do, there will be heavy consequences. That takes me to the topic I probably hate the most in this video, which is bureaucracy. Spanish bureaucracy is well known for being one of the most difficult ones in Europe. Even so many expats, when they go in the forums, they say, it's so complex, I don't understand it. And even some of our viewers have reached out to us saying, Julian, can you help me with this? Because I don't understand what I'm doing. And I agree with them. It's extremely complex. It's digitized, so you can do things online. However, when you look at the website, it looks from the 90s. And when you look at the form with so many boxes, so many things to complete, it's overwhelming. That's why having a good gestor to help you, especially in the first year or two, to complete all these tax forms, all these declarations, it's going to make your life easier. One of the things I always recommend as well, when you move to Spain, one of the first things you need to do is get a digital certificate, which basically is a certificado digital. You need to make an appointment, they look at your ID, they look at you to make sure they match, and basically you can log into all these government websites to fill up the forms from the access of your own computer. And it makes it a lot easier, and not many people know about this. To give you another example, Aslan recently had to renew his ID here in Spain to get the permanent residency. And in order to make the appointment, you need to do it online. And in order to do it online, you need your digital certificate. So many people were on Facebook forums saying, oh, I paid 200 euros or I paid 300 euros to this gestor to do it for me. You can actually save money by doing this digital certificate, doing it online, but then the problem is that where do you click? What box do you tick? It's so complex. Even me, being Spanish, I understand the language, but when it comes to those official forms, and I was trying to read them, I don't know what language they use. It looks like Latin, because I didn't understand half of it. And I found myself asking questions to ChatGPT saying, what does this mean? I don't understand it. But again, my recommendation, and I cannot emphasize this enough, especially for the first year or two, get a good gestor, because bureaucracy in Spain is overwhelming. And that's the last thing you want to be doing when you move to Spain to have a better quality of life, being stuck in bureaucracy. Get a good gestor and let them do the job for you.
There is something happening in Spain that you don't realize when you first arrive here, but it's slowly shaping Spain's future. The country is getting older. In fact, it has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. According to statistics, the fertility rate in Spain is 1.1. And to keep this stable population, minimum required is 2.1, which is way below the level required, which means that Spain, as we know it, might not exist in the future. At the moment, over 65 population is about 20%. But by 2050, 30% of the population is going to be over 65. That means that there'll be less people paying taxes in the system, less people who are working age, less people to do things around the country. But also the fabric of the society will be altered. Now, one of the reasons why this is happening is the topics we've talked about earlier. The housing prices is through the roof. Young people can't afford it. The salaries are lower compared to the cost of living. And that's why they're finding it hard to start a family. The average age of starting a family in Spain is over 31 now, which is one of the highest in Europe.
And this point makes me very sad, because growing up, I remember there were lots of children playing in parks. Even in my school, in my class, there were about 40 kids. But now in schools, the sizes are getting smaller and smaller because there are not enough kids. Because can you blame them? Because, I mean, now, if you want to get presents for your kids, now it's an iPad, now it's an iPhone, now it's an Apple Watch. When I was growing up, there were like toys, football, go to the beach, go to the park and play. But now, because everything is digital, everything is so expensive, now families are not able to keep up. And that's why some families are having children, but probably not as many. But Spain has been talking about bringing in measures to help families, numerous families. That, for example, if you are a family of 4 or 5, they will help you to get an electric car. Or if you have children, they will give you some money towards vouchers, or they will give you some money. But that's not enough, because the cost of living doesn't really match up with the help the government is providing. So really the government needs to do something when it comes to housing, cost of living, to invite people to have children, to make the country stronger, to make the country bigger. Because otherwise, if it continues like this, who knows what's going to happen?
Aging population means more pressure on healthcare system. Spain has one of the best healthcare system in the world, and it's free. The hospitals are superb, the doctors are amazing, but now something is changing. The waiting times have started to get longer. The appointments, it takes longer. To see a doctor, specialist is taking longer as well. We're not sure why exactly this is happening. It could be aging population, like we said before. It could be lack of specialists available or an admin issue. But in my experience, I haven't had this issue. We have been to private hospital, to national hospital. Here in Estepona, the waiting times has not been that long. We have been served within an hour, seen by a specialist and out as well. So people have been complaining about this issue a lot. It's getting more and more, but our experience so far has been great.
I have to agree and disagree with Arslan because, of course, he's private. And when you are private, you're going to get all the benefits. The waiting times are going to be less. You're going to be seen by better doctors. Even the hospitals are going to be a lot better. That's not to say that the public healthcare, that the government healthcare that is free is bad here in this country. It's a lot better than experience in the UK. That's why when people say here, like my friends, my family, they say, oh, it's really bad, I say, well, you haven't really seen what's on the other side of it, because I was in the UK once, I broke my elbow, and I was on emergency for 9 hours before I was seen. And then it was another 4 hours before they put a cast on it. But then, unfortunately, I broke my other arm in Spain, and I was seen within 45 minutes, and within less than an hour, I was actually gone with the cast and the medication. Yes, I know, I'm very fragile, I have to be careful. But that's a perfect example of the healthcare in the UK versus Spain. That's not to say, though, that it's getting worse, because it's getting worse. Last time I went to hospital in Estepona because I had an infection, I was actually waiting for an hour and a half, and no one came to offer me water, no one came to offer help. They just abandoned me there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours actually, with no assistance. Yes, 2 hours is nothing compared to the 8 hours, but compared to what it was when I was growing up here, it's deteriorating. And in my opinion, if you move to Spain, just get private health insurance. You can get a very basic one for 30 euros a month, 40 euros a month, especially for the beginning, because you are unaware, you don't know where you're going, you don't really speak the language. And I have to say, in the private hospitals, at least in the ones we've seen in Marbella and in Estepona, they've been very good with the English language, very hospitable, very assistant. So that's why, again, this is another hurdle you don't want to be dealing with when you first move to Spain. Get a health insurance for 30, 40 euros that covers your family. And then after a while, when you're contributing into the tax system in Spain, you can get the healthcare here, and hopefully, things will be better. Before we go any further, we have to sit down and recharge our energies, because Aslam was in Pakistan last week and he's suffering with major jet lag. That's why he doesn't want to appear in camera until he's eaten. So passing by Alcazaba, we saw this restaurant called Café Negro, or Estaca Cafe. But I saw someone having paella, and a really fancy paella. I just saw the person eating it. It smelled delicious. The price wasn't that bad. And I said, okay, we're eating here, we're eating the paella. Aslam is going for pizza because he wants to really have energy and calories to continue.
I've had a couple of bites and I feel like back into life now. The pizza isn't bad at all. The price is like, I think €7.50. And for that, it's really lovely taste. I'm loving it. I'm not sure about Julian's paella, but my word is for pizza so far.
Okay, the paella is actually very good. The taste, the texture is very, very good. For me, the best paella I've tried in my entire life, of course, was my mother's. But the second best paella I've tried in Spain so far was in Ronda. If you haven't seen the video about Ronda, we put the link in the description below. Some of you, when you move to Spain, you're gonna want to open your own business, or some of you might be on a digital nomad visa, meaning that some of you might have to become self-employed when you come to Spain. And let me tell you something. Being self-employed in Spain is probably one of the worst in the entire European continent, because there are so many requirements and they charge you for absolutely everything. It's a well-known fact that self-employed in Spain, self-employed people, or autonomous as we call them, we are not looked after by the government. Aslam and I, we are self-employed, so we know exactly what we're talking about. You have to pay for absolutely everything. You have this fee to pay for, you have to pay for national insurance, the taxes, you get taxed, as Aslam said before, from €1. So it doesn't matter how much you earn. 1 month you can only make €200, and those €200 doesn't cover for anything. You still have to pay tax on that, and you still have to pay national insurance. And national insurance for some people could be £300 a person. So where do you get the money from? But saying that, it sounds all very negative. There are some helps out there. There are 2 things that can help you get started. One of them is called Tarifa Plana. So what does that mean? Tarifa Plana is that you pay a very little amount for your national insurance contributions. When you first start, it will be around 80 to 90 euros a month. Again, doesn't matter how much you make that month, you still have to pay the 80, 90 euro bracket for your national insurance contributions. And that will help you in the first year or 2 to get you on your feet, to start your business, etc. And then you have Quota Cero. So Quota Cero, if you haven't exceeded the national minimum wage, which at the moment sits around 1,381 euros, so if you don't exceed that for the first year, they give you a refund for the national insurance contributions you have been doing for the first year. To make it even more complicated, this support, this help from the government is not really from the national government, it's from the regional government, for the municipalities. So be careful, because you might be living in a part of Spain that they don't give you that help. As you know, we love the vibe in Malaga, and today, being Thursday night, is no exception. And as you probably know, we opened a new channel called Spain by Food. No commentary, no talking, just real life, how life is in Spain. And today we found the perfect opportunity to record in the city of Malaga. So if you want to see what the vibe was like today when we were recording, check out Spain by Food on the link below. This one in particular for me is a positive, but it might shock many of you moving to Spain. Like, it's about timings. We all know, or many people know, that in Spain we have very late dinners. And that's one of the things my friend, when they come out from the UK, and they see that we don't have dinner until like 10 o'clock at night, they're starving. And I actually have pictures and videos of my friends walking on the promenade in Cadiz, walking like this, because they say, I have no energy, it's 7 p.m, we need to have something to eat. I say, okay, let's have merienda. But if you go to a restaurant now, the kitchen is gonna be closed. It's something that you really need to understand, that timings in Spain are different. We have very late dinners. It's also about the legal paperwork. Some of the banks, for example, actually most of the banks, when you go there past 2 o'clock, they are closed. If you have to go to the city hall or you have to go to a gestor, they might be closed in the afternoon. So you have to do everything in the morning, and that's the time you might probably be working, which is very complex. It's just that you need to adapt. You have more life, like social life in the afternoon, and you have all the legal work in the mornings. Now, one of the things that many people complain about as well, that things are very slow in Spain, because we don't really rush things. It's that you probably heard the expression, no, mañana, mañana. I kind of disagree with it. It's not that we are doing things tomorrow, it's that we're doing things a bit quieter. And another thing to adapt to as well is that in August, the country kind of stops. The whole country is on holiday. You have a court call, or if you need to go to a very important appointment, it might postpone until after September. They must say, no, in August we're not doing any of that. We're going to do it in September because we are on holidays.
Once we slowly started getting accustomed to the banking hours, the office hours, small shops which is going to be closed during for siesta time and the Sunday timings as well, the whole life came together and everything made sense that, yeah, you get more time. The whole point of living in Spain is that you enjoy, slow down your life. And that's when you have Sunday where nothing is working. You are enjoying your time with your family. So these are the things that we found to be challenging when we moved to Spain, but none of them are meant to scare you. Once you know how things work, it took us some time to get adjusted to it, but that's why we put them together for you to know, to be aware of these things, to be prepared for it. And once you're prepared, honestly speaking, Spain could be one of the most beautiful and most rewarding country to live in. Until next week, we will see you from another great location in Spain. Hasta luego.